What's going on, everybody? Been a little while since we did an update. As you can see, we got the Camaro back here. We are doing a little work on it. Had to get some new injectors. Had some issues with the fuel filter. I'll show a picture of what happened to it. Definitely don't buy a cheap one, otherwise it ruins your injectors. So we had to go through and clean out all of our snake eater injectors. And in the meantime, I ordered a set of Bosch 210s. So we worked on getting those, but then we ran into an issue with the intake. And the Trailblazer SS, the intake doesn't quite fit the 210s. And so instead of going through, and some people were flap disking the mounts on the Trailblazer intake, I decided to get a new one. So that's going to be here tomorrow. So we're going to work on getting that installed. But in the meantime, we also went through and took the wire adapters, the pigtail adapters for the injectors, and we got the ones for the EV1 and the EV6, and then we spliced those together. So that way we can swap back and forth between the snake eaters and the Bosches if we need to for some reason. So I hope you guys enjoy this little update, and I'm just going to give you a little walk, show you what we've done with the car. So changes. One thing that we found out was these wastegates have a diaphragm in them, and all the diaphragms were leaking. So we got a dome sensor here and got that hooked up, and we actually swapped over to the dual 3-port max, and then we have this going to, instead of a CO2 tank, we actually have it going to a paintball tank. And we got a little regulator that threads on it, and that regulator drops it down to 50 psi. So that will give us a constant pressure that we can command on the top of the domes. But when we first got it hooked up, the issue that we ran into was it was basically going full on pressure and then trying to dump, and full on pressure and trying to dump, and it just kept cycling and cycling and cycling. And turns out that those diaphragms inside the wastegates were leaking. So I took them all apart. They were actually pinched in a couple of spots. And then watching one of Joe Simpson's videos, he talked about how they would RTV those wastegate diaphragms. So I went through, did the RTV, put it on there, let it sit, and then clamped it down the next day. And sure enough, it's holding pressure now. So haven't had any issues with that. And then, let's see, what else did we do? We also put in one of those manifolds for the vacuum. So we can get our boost gauge in there, plus we got all the other vacuum stuff. And then we're gonna rerun with the new intake. We're gonna have all the stuff going through the valley. And then that'll go to the blow-off valves, the boost reference for the bottom of the wastegates, and we just did a lot of wire cleanup. We went through and pulled the whole Holley harness all apart and moved some of the wires around. That way we actually have the fuel pressure regulator on the correct side over here. So we got the wire for that over here. We added a second sensor down here for the coolant system. We put that in last time we took it to the track. Now we're actually we finally got it set up to where we can track it, basically. We also got the knock sensors put in and hooked up. I don't know if we'll use those or not for any tuning, but at least we'll be able to track it. And then we did get the new trunnions installed. So we got all of that done. And then the biggest thing that we've done is the wiring inside the car. So if you guys remember what this looked like before, we've made some changes to it. So right now we got the dash out of it. The dash is actually up here. We got all of our little wire labels for all the wires. But we also got a removable steering wheel with the 4 buttons. So we got the trans brake, the bump, and then these go to the Ultronics shifter. I figured out how to wire those in. So I got a little breakout cable I made for that. Got it all wired in to the bungee cord, which that is a network cable. It's like 20 bucks versus the 60 bucks they want for the coil ones. And then we went through and did all that. So we got those 30 port blocks put in. We got all the inputs, all the outputs, all the fuses. And then in the center console, we actually have our fuses and relays. The other thing that we did too was we changed this center console section. So this here we have a push button now for the starter, but we added indicator lights for all the relays. So these two are for the fuel pumps. So that indicator light will turn on whether the computer tells it to turn on or if you manually turn on the switch. So you can always see when the fuel pumps are on. And these are placed post relay. So if you have a fuse go out or a relay stop working, these LEDs will stop working. So you don't have to try and troubleshoot that. And then we have the fan light there. So that same thing. The fan, if the computer tells it to turn on, the light will come on. And if you want to turn on manually, you can flip the switch. And you got the headlights, turn signals. And then these three, we added, this one is a master switch. So that one will actually let it try and make the boost. This one's for the trans brake, and then this one's for the burnout. So we got those all hooked up and tested, and so the next thing we got to do is get the dash in. That'll be one of the next projects. And the biggest thing is going to be just getting the intake put back on the car. Right now it's open. So yeah, once we get the intake in, hopefully tomorrow we can actually spend some time, get the intake put on, get the pigtails. As you can see, we got the EV1, EV6, and then we got the Multec, which is on the Terminator X. So we'll get that gun, and then we'll hopefully be able to fire it up and maybe even take it for a spin. Gotta toss some oil in it. Right now it's got the oil pan under because it was leaking off the ethanol. You helping us out, Drac? Yeah. So with the fuel filter issue that we had, anytime the fuel pumps would turn on, it would just wash out the cylinders. So this is what happened to the old filter. It's supposed to be E85 rated. Contacted the seller and they ghosted me. So I'll post a link so nobody else buys it. But we got the new micro glass Aeromotive filter in there, and that one seems to be working so far. I went through and had to empty the whole tank, pull the whole fuel cell out, disconnect all the pumps, blow all the lines out, clean out the tank. Just a big hassle for having something listed as E85 that isn't E85 rated. So, hope you guys enjoyed this update. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.